All right, guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here from Hubbard's Marina with Salt Strong, coming to you with a few different red snapper tips. Red snapper season is just around the corner, and there's no better way to get involved and get ready than getting all your tackle together. Red snapper right now, they seem to be everywhere. They're only getting more and more prolific, so hopefully you won't have a trouble finding them. But if you do, there's a few different things you want to look for on your bottom machine when hunting red snapper. One of the best areas to go if you don't have a lot of bottom is you can go to some of these public wrecks and reefs that are marked on your charts. If you go to Bass Pro Shops or if you go to any other tackle shop and get a Top Spots chart, Top Spots charts have these public wrecks. You can plug in that public number and start heading towards one of those public sites. Always watch your bottom machine, because a lot of times on the way there you're going to see that fish show. On shell bottom, any fish show is going to hold red snapper, especially when you're past about 110 to 120 foot. You've got some big red snapper. Out in that deeper water, past about 130 foot, is when you start getting those really big red snapper. Also, besides shell bottom, you've got flat hard bottom that have potholes, or you can go to wrecks, or you can go to springs. Those are the three areas we find that hold the most amount of red snapper. And that's a great area to go. Those wrecks, obviously, a lot of those are going to be publicly marked. The shell bottom's easy to find because of those bait shows. And then the same flat hard bottom that holds those fat red grouper, you can get plenty of big red snapper too. Now, as far as the area to find them, the other trick is going to be picking the right tackle. Red snapper is a big fish, so you definitely want to try to use at least like a 6/0 reel or better for red snapper. Typically, I'm using around 60-pound main line or even 80-pound main line for some of those bigger red snapper. Now, besides your actual reel, which typically you want to go about 6/0, you also want to make sure you're using the right size line, which is again around that 60-pound test. I normally use a double Snell 7/0 circle hook. You can even get away with 6/0 circle hooks if you'd like. But the double Snell rig works really, really well to make sure that you have two different hooks in your bait. Because those red snapper, they're going to come up and bite quickly, and they're a lot like a mangrove snapper. They come snap your bait and then come around in a circle and eat it. So the double Snell rig allows you to have two different hooks in that bait, so that way, no matter where that fish bites the bait, he's going to get a hook in his mouth. Now, red snapper are one of those species that comes up and bites the bait and runs. So a circle hook is a great option for them. Plus, you're fishing deeper water, so it's easier to set the hook with that circle hook rig. You'll notice I have about a 4-foot leader and then an egg sinker just above that swivel. I use about a 6-ounce egg sinker because I'm using 60-pound line. If I was using 80-pound line, I'd probably use around an 8-ounce sinker. If I'm using a 100-pound line, I'm using around a 10-ounce sinker. So hopefully you get the drift there. Any size of your line, you just drop that last 0, and that's the size weight you want to use. Now, as far as dropping this thing down, when you hit the bottom for red snapper, a lot of times you want to make sure that you're holding bottom naturally. A lot of people make the mistake of just sitting there holding the rod and holding the beer. You want to make sure when you hit bottom that you're holding bottom. So as the boat goes up, you're moving your rod tip down, and as the boat goes down, you're moving your rod tip up. That way your lead's not bouncing on the bottom. Also for red snapper, you want to make sure once you hit the bottom, you straighten out your leader by lifting your rod tip up slowly to the sky and setting that lead back down to bottom. And the tide is going to straighten out that leader for you. So your leader's straight, you're presenting your bait naturally, you're using the right size reel, the right size line, right size hook, you're going to catch plenty of red snappers. One more important thing is, besides your area to find them and the tackle you choose, you want to choose the right bait. Red snapper are one of those species right now that seem to be everywhere. They seem to bite just about anything, but there's a few different baits I like to personally use to really target red snapper well. One of my favorites is a long strip of squid. A long strip of cut squid wing works very well because it stays on the hook well, and it has that motion under the water, so even if you come up off the bottom, those aggressive red snapper will come up and eat it. Another one of my favorites is, don't tell your friends now, this is our secret, is a strip of bonita belly. Bonita is a very oily, smelly bait, and if you put your hook through the skin of that bonita, that bait will stay on the hook very well for you. So bonita belly is a great option when the red snapper are a little bit picky. Then also you always have your live bait options. A whole pinfish, a whole pigfish, they work well. And even a threadfin with the cut tail and a cut belly cavity works very well. And then I've had plenty of people catch them on vertical jigs. You can use naked ball jigs. You can use a lot of different jig species or jig types as well for red snapper too. So the options are kind of endless when it comes to the bait, but I would say my one trick for you to use is that bonita belly. Very smelly, very slimy, gets those red snapper excited. If you enjoyed the tips on today's video, definitely tell us what you'd like to hear about next. You have endless options. Hubbard's Marina does anything from 2 inches of water out past 1,000 foot. Anytime you want to learn more about anything that swims out in the Gulf, just let us know at Salt Strong what you'd like to learn about, and hopefully I can help you out, give you some tips and tricks to help you be more successful out in the water. You can always come check us out at Hubbard's Marina. You can look us up on Facebook, Instagram, or the FishBrain app, or just come fishing with us here inside beautiful Johns Pass. Remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy.